the forensic demise of FTX.
On November 11, 2022, FTX filed for bankruptcy.
Before that day, Sam Bankman-Fried was supposed to be a visionary. He was a man who graced Forbes covers and testified in congressional hearings to politicians who hung on his every word. The public was sold a very specific narrative: a billionaire who slept on beanbags in a crumpled t-shirt, casually playing video games during high-stakes pitch meetings. He was presented as the golden boy of a new financial era, an individual who routinely had the word genius printed right next to his name.
How did a $26 billion empire turn to zero?
Chapter 1. The Architecture of Trust.
You see, to understand how this happened, we have to look at how it was built. Alameda was FTX's sister company. It was also its secret landlord, its shadow bank, and ultimately, its cause of death. When the exchange first launched, it needed massive liquidity to function, basically enough cash flowing back and forth to attract outside users. Alameda provided that volume. But as the platform grew into a global behemoth, the strict financial firewall that is legally required to exist between a public exchange and a private hedge fund, well, it never materialized.
Customers were told their funds were strictly segregated. Right, that is the fundamental rule of banking and brokerages. If you deposit $1, that dollar sits in a vault waiting for you to withdraw it. It's not supposed to be touched, invested, or loaned out without your explicit permission. But the private truth was entirely different. Internally, there was no meaningful distinction between the money everyday users deposited and the money Alameda Research used to place highly leveraged, incredibly risky market bets. While regular users faced strict auto-liquidation if their trades went negative, user deposits were systematically siphoned into a virtually limitless, unliquidatable line of credit for Alameda.
This complex web of corporate entities masked a very simple reality. The entire exchange was heavily propped up by a cryptocurrency called FTT. FTT was a token created by FTX essentially out of thin air. In human terms, it's like a company printing its own monopoly money, declaring that money is highly valuable, and then placing it on their official balance sheet to look wealthy. Alameda Research held massive, illiquid quantities of this FTT token. They used billions of dollars worth of this invented currency as collateral to borrow billions of dollars in real, hard customer assets. The entire $26 billion structure rested on a coin they had made up themselves.
So, if the foundation was built entirely on an illusion, what happens when someone finally looks at the ledger?
Chapter 2. The 10 Days.
The collapse wasn't a slow decline. It was a 10-day countdown. On November 2nd, a leaked balance sheet was published by the news outlet CoinDesk. For the first time, the public learned that Alameda's financial foundation wasn't made of independent, stable assets, but was largely propped up by the FTT token. The open secret was suddenly just open. By November 6th, the rival exchange Binance announced to their millions of followers that they were liquidating their entire position in FTT tokens due to recent revelations. That single public announcement triggered an immediate, devastating run on the bank. Retail investors, hedge funds, and institutions all rushed for the exit at the exact same time, desperate to pull their funds off the platform. By November 8th, the doors were locked. Withdrawals paused. The vault was empty.
$5 billion withdrawn in 72 hours?
On November 7th, as the panic reached a fever pitch, Bankman-Fried tweeted to the public, "FTX is fine. Assets are fine." He claimed they had enough to cover all client holdings and that they didn't invest client assets. Inside the company, the truth was terminal. He was privately confronting an $8 billion liquidity gap. The assets were gone. The internal communications from those days reveal a desperate scramble. An executive team fully aware that they had spent billions of dollars that did not belong to them, calling sovereign wealth funds and Wall Street banks, begging for emergency capital. The public relations machine continued to project total calm, while the internal spreadsheets confirmed total ruin.
While the money bled out of the platform, who was the man refusing to let go?
Chapter 3. The Man Behind the Brand.
The public saw an effective altruist. This was a specific philosophy Bankman-Fried aggressively promoted, claiming he only wanted to amass immense wealth so he could give it away to solve the world's most pressing problems. The reality on the ledger was a $35 million Bahamas penthouse for himself and his inner circle, alongside a massive portfolio of island real estate. It was immense political donations funneled through dark channels to buy influence and craft favorable legislation in Washington. And it was exposed in private messages to a reporter where he abandoned the altruistic persona completely, plainly stating, "Fuck regulation," and admitting that the ethics talk was mostly a dumb game played for public consumption.
Even after the collapse, while under house arrest and facing decades in federal prison, his focus remained on the narrative. He drafted 19 public relations ideas in a Google document. The list included plans to go on Tucker Carlson and come out as a Republican. He wrote down an idea to lean into the crypto savior narrative and offer to pay off the entire Bahamian national debt. He considered claiming his executive, Ryan Salam, was effectively a member of the Bahamian government. The document outlines a man attempting to reverse engineer reality through media spin.
But when the public relations campaign ended, who was left holding the empty accounts?
Chapter 4. The People It Erased.
$8 billion in missing customer funds. That number is so large it becomes abstract, but it represents the life savings of retail investors across the globe. Ordinary people who trusted a regulated, high-profile exchange. These were not venture capitalists who understood the risk of a zero outcome. These were teachers, small business owners, and individuals in countries experiencing hyperinflation, where $10,000 is a lifetime of labor. They were wiped out because their money was funneled into a hedge fund's losing bets.
It represents people like Sunil Kavori. He flew from London to stand in a courtroom representing 200 victims. He addressed the judge directly. He described living the FTX nightmare every single day since the collapse. He spoke quietly about the physical and mental toll on the victims, the marriages destroyed, and the futures that were completely erased.
For the 200 people Sunil represented, how does a justice system measure the weight of $8 billion stolen dollars?
Chapter 5. The Verdict.
Inside the courtroom, the illusion was fully dismantled. Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, testified to the inner workings of the fraud, detailing how they routinely altered balance sheets to hide the missing billions from lenders. The jury returned a guilty verdict on all 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy. Judge Lewis Kaplan delivered a 25-year prison sentence, and the prosecutor read the facts cleanly into the record. Samuel Bankman-Fried stole $8 billion.
Sam Bankman-Fried is now in a low-security prison in California. He is appealing his sentence. He still, from inside a prison cell, maintains that FTX was solvent, that the lawyers destroyed it, that he would have fixed it. The documents say otherwise.